Hello. Welcome, welcome. You want to go on in? We're going to be starting in that room right there to your left. All right, well, welcome to Willard Library, guys. Alrighty, so I want to give you guys a little bit of background about our library. This library opened in 1885. It's the oldest consecutively running library in the state of Indiana. So back here on the wall is our Willard family. And yes, their eyeballs do move when no one else is in the room. So down here we've got Willard Carpenter. He's our founder. Next to him is his wife, Lucinda, his eldest daughter, Marcia, and then her husband, his name was DeWitt Keller. So just a little bit of background about Willard. Willard was involved in a lot of trades. He was involved in the dry goods business. He was essential in bringing the railroad here to Evansville. He had a dream of opening a women's college, but some of his friends kind of talked him out of it. One of those friends is the guy on the wall back there. That's Thomas Garvin. You guys familiar with Garvin Park? Thomas Garvin. So they talked him into opening a library instead. So Willard had this dream that he was going to open a library, but it was going to be open to all people regardless of race, gender, religion, any of that. It was going to be open to everyone. And that is exactly what he did. Just a few other things I want to point out. We are still a public service library open to everyone. If you live, work, or go to school in Evansville or in Indiana, you can get a card for free. Just check in with us at the front desk. Behind us, if everybody turns and waves real quick, you guys are all on camera. That is one of our ghost cams. We get about 40 million hits on those cams a year. So there are a lot of ghost hunters out there. Anybody checked out the cams before? Okay, great. Alrighty, so we are gonna get started on what you guys are really here for, which is our Gray Lady Ghost. If you guys want to follow me to the foyer. Alrighty, so just a little bit of a note about this tour. This is not a haunted house, so nothing's going to jump out at you as we walk through the building. If it does, it wasn't planned. Let's hope it doesn't. But I do want to give you a little bit of background about our Gray Lady Ghost. So right off the bat, we don't know who the Gray Lady is, but there are some theories. One theory is that she is Louise Carpenter, who was the youngest daughter of Willard Carpenter. When Willard passed, he left most of his wealth to his business, to this library. He wasn't exactly what you would call the dad of the year. He and his family had a little bit of a strained relationship. And so when he passed, some of his family members, they actually sued the library board, and they lost. They said that he was not of sound mind when he passed, and that they needed some of that money. So some people believe that Louise is the one who is haunting Willard, kind of waiting around for that inheritance that she never got, keeping an eye on things. So this is a picture of Louise. And you'll notice what she's wearing. She's got a high neck collar, got her hair up high. So as we walk through, there are a few things you guys are going to want to look for. Some people have reported that our Gray Lady Ghost is more felt than seen. So ways that she makes her presence known is a cold rush of air, almost if you're opening our fridge door, that cold rush of air that comes over you. Other people have reported a strong, like perfume smell, a lilac smell, kind of like a musty perfume. Yeah, she likes to play with people's jewelry sometimes. A lot of people have reported feeling like somebody's brushing the back of their hair, just goosebumps all over, just that feeling like someone's like right behind you. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. A few people have actually seen an apparition, and she's reported as being a lady in Victorian clothing, high collar dress all the way to the floor. Sometimes she's wearing a veil. Some people have reported that she doesn't have facial features that you can make out. So let's go up. If you want to follow me, we're going to stop on the landing up here. You'll notice that the ceilings almost on every floor are 20 feet tall or higher. They're very tall. And we have these replicated chandeliers from what they look like in the 1880s. And changing the light bulbs is a task, as you can imagine, especially on the stairwell. So there have been multiple occasions when our custodial staff will lug their big ladder up here, go to change the light bulb that's gone out. They'll get up there and they'll notice that the light bulb isn't burned out. It's just just a little bit turned, you know? All they have to do is turn it back. So how does that happen? Who's doing it? They've tried to, tighten them as tight as you possibly can. It still happens. So she likes to play tricks, pranks. She's what we call a poltergeist. She likes to move things around. So thanks, Louise. All right, come on, guys. Welcome to our special collections and genealogy floor. If any of you are interested in doing your family history, researching your family tree, this is a great place to start. All of our librarians are very knowledgeable, can help you out with that. Okay, so this floor is very haunted. I'm going to tell you a few stories that have happened up here. One is that, so every night before we close, we kind of go through the motions of cleaning things up, straightening, pushing all the chairs in, making sure all the lights are turned off, that sort of thing. So one night, our librarian was covering this floor. She went through and she pushed all the chairs in, put the books away, comes back to the front desk up here, and she turns around and one of the chairs from the back is pulled out. And she has that moment, where you're like, I know, I thought I did that, but maybe I didn't. She walks back there, she pushes it back in. She comes back to the front desk, turns around, that same chair is pulled back out. So she's like, okay, something weird's going on here. So she goes back, she pushes it in, she has her back turned, she's walking back up to the desk and she hears this sound, turns back around, and there it is, sitting out. So apparently somebody was still reading, not ready to go home yet. Another weird thing that happened in 2019, this happened while I was here. So we had what we call a weird energy day. So we had a group here, they were using the Bayard Room, we're gonna go in there next, and they were having like a PowerPoint presentation. All of a sudden their screen went to that blue screen of death. So they called downstairs and say, we need some technical assistance. Our director at the time went to help them. He goes to the elevator, pushes the button, nothing happens. Elevator doesn't come, it's stuck. So he goes up, he takes the stairs, he goes up, he helps them. After a while, everything seems fine. Well, that night, we're closing up the library, and our librarian up here turns off all the lights. We go downstairs every night, we all meet, all the staff meets at the same place. We all leave together. So we're walking out to the parking lot, and we look up, and every single one of these lights is still on. So, the guy that closes up here does it every single night. He's not gonna forget to turn all the lights off. So he and I were brave, and we came back in. I stood downstairs and undid the alarm, and he came up the stairs and he turned all the lights off, made sure, and then we went back outside and we set the alarm at about, I think we closed at 8, it was about 8:05. Well, that night on the cams, somebody caught a picture of the gray lady walking up the stairs at 8:11. So she was here and she was messing with us for sure. There has been a sighting on this floor as well. So there was a young library assistant. His job was to take books that were left on the carts here that people have used and reshelve them. So he's doing his job. It's the middle of the day, sunny day, and he's doing his job, and he takes the books and he's shelving them, and he said he got this feeling like someone was like looking at him, just like watching him. And he's like kind of peeking through the stacks, looking around. He doesn't see anybody, but he just had this feeling like he needed to investigate, So he walks around one of the sides of the stacks, and he reported that he came face to face with a woman wearing a long gray dress, and she was transparent. You could see right through her. He reported it to his boss. She said he was like a laid back, easygoing guy, and this was too much for him, so she believed that he saw something for sure. Said he was white as a ghost. Okay, this is my favorite room. It's the Bayard Room. This is has been our conference room since the library opened. The green color is the original paint color. But we've had a few strange things happen in this room. So one of them, I'm going to set the scene. It's 1980s. The library just had a fancy new alarm system set up, and it's 3 in the morning, and the alarm starts going off. So our library director at the time gets a call, says something's going on at the library, you need to get down here. So he comes down, and he meets 2 police officers, and they decide that the director and a police officer are going to come in the building and do a walkthrough, and the other police officer is going to kind of do a stand outside kind of thing and make sure everything looks cool out there. So They come in the building, they do the whole walkthrough, everything looks normal, and they go back outside and they meet the guy who is standing watch. And he's standing, if you guys look out these windows, that's Barry right there, and there's the parking lot down there. So he's standing down there in the parking lot, and they said, all clear, it was a false alarm, something must have triggered the alarm. And he goes, well, what about those two people up in the windows? And he points at these windows, and he said he clearly saw the outline of a man and a woman standing at the window, just kind of peeking out down at him. So flash forward, 2011, one of our Willard employees was at a doctor's appointment, and the receptionist at the doctor's office she was at was actually the wife of that police officer who had been there that night. And she saw that the patient had been, a Willard employee, and she was like, oh my gosh, my husband was the one. He was the one that saw. And so she gets him on the phone, and he confirmed, he said he definitely saw a man and a woman peeking out the window, and he didn't know anything about the ghost at the time. So pretty weird. But that kind of leads me to, we talk a lot about the Gray Lady, but she's not the only spirit here. There are a lot of reports of other spirits, an elderly man, also a young boy who plays on the stairs. Some people have even talked about a ghost cat walking around, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, so all kinds of spooky spirits going on down here. Down in this area, there used to be a bathroom back here underneath the stairwell. It was a one-person bathroom. It had a lock on the door, and you would go in and there was a stall and a sink. One of the librarians that worked here came downstairs. She walked into the bathroom, shut the door behind her, went into the stall, and while she's there, she hears the water turn on. And this was one of those faucets, like the old school faucets that you had to actually turn. You didn't have to just wave your hand in front of it. And she's like, hello, somebody occupied, and she comes back out of the stall and she checks the door, and the door's still locked. No one had been in there. The water's pouring out. So she goes and she checks with the librarian in the children's department, and they take a look at the cameras, and while she had been in the bathroom, this kind of cloud or mist had come around the corner from the bathroom and wandered down the hallway. So pretty weird. Very creepy. We're getting ready to go into the children's department, which is considered the most haunted place in the library. I do want to give you guys a little bit of background about Miss Margaret. She was our beloved children's librarian for about 50 years. And Miss Margaret had a very interesting relationship with the Gray Lady. The Gray Lady actually followed her home. So think about that tonight whenever you're falling asleep. But yeah, Miss Margaret acted like, she was just part of the crew. She and her sister lived together, and they would both see her walking down the hallways of her house. She said that she could see her so clearly that she saw the pleats in her skirt and the buttons down the back of her dress. So very, very strange. But yeah, Miss Margaret was something else. So we're going to go into the story room right now. And there is a picture of Miss Margaret here on the wall if you want to take a peek at her. All right, welcome to the story pit. Have a seat wherever you like. Alrighty, so right now we are in what is considered the most haunted spot in the whole building. We've had multiple paranormal investigative teams come in here. 100% of them say that something weird is going on in this room. Their electromagnetic meters just go crazy whenever we get in here. So something strange going on. But I do have a few stories about our children's department. First thing I wanted to tell you about was, so Miss Margaret had this tradition of making an egg tree, an Easter egg tree every year. So she would have the kids decorate little eggs, and then we put them on a tree. We still do it every year around Easter time. But she had one little boy who is coming in with his mom. They come down the hallway, and she's got his egg ready to go and starts to hand it to him, and he just backs out of the room and says, no, I'm not coming in there. And she said, well, why not? And he goes, because of the ghost. So a lot of people say that, for some reason kids have kind of a connection to the paranormal. They see things that we maybe can't see. So another interesting story that happened. We do have, pre-COVID, we used to have field trips come in from schools and daycares and things like that. And we lead them around the building. We talk about the library and our services and how they can get a library card and things like that. And we do touch on the ghost a little bit, but we try not to scare them too bad. Well, a couple of years ago, we had a group come in and this little boy got super creeped out, poor thing. And he went home crying to his mom and said, they talked about a ghost and blah, blah, blah. And so his mom got really mad and she marched down here and talked to the director, and that was kind of the last straw for him. And so he met with the staff and he said, okay, the gray lady's gone. We're not gonna talk about her anymore. So after that, sure enough, a patron comes in and say, hey, have you guys seen the gray lady lately? And the librarians did as they were told and said, no, we think she might have moved on. As soon as they said that, book flies across the room. So she's not going anywhere apparently, even if we deny it. Another story. So this happened just right outside this door. But we have these book sales multiple times a year. And so one year during the book sale, a news crew was here and they were interviewing our director upstairs where we just were about the book sale. Meanwhile, our children's librarians were down here and they were shelving and weeding books, kind of weeding stuff out, shelving. One of the librarians gets a phone call. Our children's desk is out there, so she leaves her post for a minute. She goes, answers the phone, comes back, and when she gets there, all of the books that she was just doing were pulled like this. Just all the way down. She had been the only person right there. She was, had her eyes on the door. No one had come in or out. So she does what any normal person would do and starts screaming her head off. And sure enough, they hear her upstairs. And so the news crew goes running. They're hearing, there's drama at Willard. They're going to get this great story. So they come down and they get all this good footage of the shelf. They get an interview with the librarian that happened to, and they're thinking, okay, we've got this great story. Well, when they get back to the studio, all of that footage is wiped clean. None of it. They had the interview with the director upstairs, but nothing from down here. So she likes to kind of clean up her tracks a little bit. We've had lots of people come and they say, oh, I've got this great picture, and then they go to find it and it's not on their phone anymore. So it's kind of frustrating. One last story in here and then we'll move on. So this was 2019. The children's department was doing a contest where they had a raffle. And they had this big raffle jar with the red raffle tickets in it, and it was sitting on the desk. And it was basically if you checked out so many books, you got a raffle ticket. So they're sitting there, and we've got our children's librarian at the time was sitting in her office, and then her assistant was sitting at the desk, both of them just talking. And all of a sudden, this giant raffle jar just lifts up off the table all by itself and topples over onto the floor. No one was around, nobody touched it. They both saw it happen. They both looked at each other like, what? So yeah, like I said, she's a poltergeist. She likes to move things. She likes to make herself known that way. And she has a sense of humor for sure. All right, come on with me, guys. All right, guys, so right here where we're standing is the spot where the Gray Lady was first seen in 1937. So at the time, a night janitor came. His job was to come and clean up the library, get it ready for the next day, and he would stoke the furnace that was here. So one night he comes in, it's maybe 2, 3 in the morning, and he's doing his job, and he looks over and he sees this woman. She's dressed in a long gray dress with a veil over her face. He's supposed to be the only person in the building, so he's like, hey, what are you doing here? And she disappears around the corner. Next day he tells his boss, says, I was here and there was some lady. I looked for her, but she disappeared, I don't know. And his boss does what most people would do and said, it was the middle of the night, you were probably a little bit tired, you were probably seeing things, how that goes, and just kind of brushed it off. Well, it kept happening. He kept seeing her over and over and over again. And the poor guy would report it and nobody believed him because he was the first one to ever see her. He is known as the only person to ever quit his job at Willard because of the Gray Lady ghost. Poor guy. But it wasn't until years later that more people started seeing her and the stories became more of a reality. Another story I want to tell you guys, and we're going to flash forward to the present time. So there is a staff room, like kind of a break room, just around this corner over here. And it has a telephone in it. It's got a refrigerator, pretty much anything you would imagine a break room to have. Well, one day we came in, my coworker and I came in to open up the library, and we see that we have a voicemail on the phone upstairs. And there's a light that blinks whenever we have a message. So we put it on speakerphone, and we press the button, and we're listening to it. And it's just like this weird, like, crackling sound, and then somebody breathing, like, heavily. So we're thinking, okay, somebody accidentally dialed us, whatever. We didn't really think much of it. Well, then the message goes on, and it says that it came in at 1:30 a.m. the night before, and that it came from the staff room in the building. Yeah. And so that was a really freaky way to start our day, for sure. That one still gives me goosebumps a little bit. Don't have an explanation for it. All right, we're gonna go down to this area, just this way. So this is where we keep our donated books. A lot of people like to donate their old used books to us for our book sales, which is very kind. But we keep a close eye on this area. You'll notice that there are cameras on the ceiling. And there's a kind of a wall of screens in our children's department that shows the different areas of the library that we can kind of look at any time. So one day, our children's librarian is sitting there, and she's kind of glancing over at the screens, and she sees this woman standing in this area. It's the middle of the day, and this woman is wearing like a long sleeve dress that goes all the way to the ground. And it just kind of, something was up with that. She thought it was kind of weird. And this woman is kind of standing here like this, and she's looking out the window and kind of waiting around. And so our children's librarian at the time calls over her assistant and says, "Hey, look at this lady. Like, is she in costume? What is she wearing?" And so they're just staring at her. All of a sudden, this woman turns and looks directly into the camera that they're looking at, and she just slowly disappears from her head down to her feet. Yeah. Creepy. Yep. So right when you guys hit the carpeted area here, this is what we consider the new part of the library. It was built in 2015. We'll talk about it a little bit more. So this is the Langford Archives reading room. I do want to point out right over here, we've got a display right now that has Willard Carpenter's original glasses in it and his pocket watch. So kind of neat. Also some really creepy pictures to look at over there. All right, so this part of the building, like I said, was built in 2015. As they were building it, a lot of our patrons were asking, okay, do you think that the Gray Lady is going to stay, in her territory where she is used to, or is she going to venture down this way? A few years later, and I can say that she's definitely explored down here for sure. We've had a lot of people report having strange things happen down here. Some of those strange things include seeing shadows dancing down the walls as you come down that hallway. Other people have reported hearing the toilets flushing over and over again, nobody in there. Water faucets coming on and off. We actually had an employee just this week said that she went into the bathroom and the paper towel rolled down by itself, which is really weird. So yeah, she's definitely explored down here. Our archivist usually sits at this desk, and one night she reported that she's here by herself. She's wearing dangly earrings, and she said she felt like somebody was there behind her. And so she did what most of us would do, and she just held really, really still and held her breath. And she said that she was wearing these dangly earrings, and one of her earrings just started, super creepy. I don't think I could sit down here by myself. Another interesting thing that happened down here was we've got, most of our programming happens in this room, if you guys want to come on and take a peek. So this is our Browning Gallery. So when we're able to have programs again, we will do them in this room. But as they were building out the room, we had lots of different construction workers here, painters, electricians, all these people, all this stuff going on. And one day, there's some painters here doing the walls, and they said that the projector screen that is built into the ceiling started coming down by itself and going back up by itself. They reported it to the electricians saying, something weird is going on with that, you need to fix it. And the electricians were like, that thing isn't hooked up yet. So there was no reason for that to be happening. So creeped out a whole bunch of construction workers that day. That about wraps up my tour. I sure do appreciate you guys all coming in and and spending time with us. This has been really nice after a year of no tours. So I appreciate you guys. All right, thank you.